Welcome back to the Contacts Coaching Podcast. We're joined today by Rivera, who is a math teacher at Pioneer Valley High School in Santa Maria, California, and also an assistant basketball coach at Mission College Prep in San Luis Obispo, working alongside one of the original guests of the show, Terrence Harris. Coach, thanks for being here today.
Thanks. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here.
All right, let's dive in, shall we? Take us through your background. I know it's weaved its way along a couple of different stops there, but let us know what's going on, how you ended up at Mission Prep, where were you before that, and all the way back to your playing days.
Yeah. Well, actually, it started in 2009 when I graduated high school. I had an AAU team I was on called B3 Elite that was ran by John Bynum and Sam Bruce. So I was on that AAU team. And then leading into when I graduated, I was playing at COS, where I was practicing. I wasn't playing because I was gray shirting. But they had a
College of the Sequoias for the rest of us.
College of Sequoias in Visalia. That's where I'm from, Visalia. But they started a youth league called B3 Elite, and I was able to coach. I think it was like fourth and fifth graders or third and fourth graders. That's actually when it started with my dad. And so we have these kids and starting this league up, and coaching was just so much fun. When you coach those little kids like that and they just are out there and they have a smile and they have a ball and you're like teaching them basketball and doing all the fun drills and they're getting better and parents like it. And that was where coaching started for me. I think I'd seen a Facebook post. They always come back up, like the memories. And it was like, oh, I just got done coaching these little kids. I think this is what I want to do with my life. And that was 2009. So that's 15 years ago. But yeah, continuing from there, I didn't coach again. We're actually going through that. I went to COS. I played 2 years. My coaches, when I actually played 2010, 11, were Rusty Smith and Greg Lanthier. And Greg Lanthier is the main guy right there because without him, I'm not where I am today. Because when I got done at COS, I got a scholarship to play at University Pacific. Played there for 3 years. We won a Big West championship my junior year. And then when I graduated in 2014, I went on to play in Mexico. I played in the top league in Mexico, and we won a championship there. Then after that year, I was like stuck. I didn't know if I wanted to keep playing basketball. It was really hard for me to be away from home, like living in Mexico and being away from my family. Like I had gone so many Thanksgivings and like Christmases of not being around. And I was like, man, I don't know if this is it, what I wanted to do. Like obviously I love basketball, but it's like that's hard. It was hard for me. And so I don't go back the next year in 2015. And that summer of 2015, I contact the athletic director at my old high school, El Diamante, Greg Flannery. I contact him and I say, hey, I'm going to be around this next year. Is there any need for coaching? I want to coach. I want to do something, right? I didn't have a full-time job. So I was being a substitute teacher and coaching. I ended up being the freshman coach. I coached those kids and it was just out. It was so much fun with them. It was a good group of kids. They just made the coaching experience fun. It was like going to practice and seeing these kids. It was like they were just so excited to be there. They worked hard. They looked at me like, hey, this guy just played pro basketball. He went to this school. They looked up to me and it was like fun to be a role model for them. And then I got to show them like, hey, if you want to be good at something, like this is what you need to do. And so that year, freshman team, but still, we only lost 2 games the whole year. And we ended up winning like our freshman league championship, which is nothing, but it's like at the same time for those kids, they're like, hey, we won championship, we won something. So that group of kids, they inspire me to go back to Mexico to play basketball. And so I go back, it was like February 28th, we had our end of the season celebration awards. And then on March 1st, I'm back on a plane. I'm out to Mazatlan in Mexico. And I'm playing in the Ciba Copa, which is like the second league. And then all the while I'm out there, we had a group chat in for our freshman team. So I'm messaging these guys like, hey, look at this, look at that. Like I'm playing pro basketball again. They were the inspiration for that and ended up winning another championship with that team. So then when I come back from there, I'm like, all right, I think I had a really bad hamstring injury. And I was like, I'm done. I'm done playing basketball. So I ended up being a JV coach now for another school across town because I think I was just too late to go back to El Diamante. So I go to Golden West. I'm a JV coach there, an assistant on varsity. I'm still just being a substitute teacher. But I think what I had done, because I knew that's what I wanted to do, I put a Facebook status on Facebook saying, hey, I'm going to become a math teacher. This is what I want to do. And this is where my assistant, Greg Lanthier, he comes back in and was like, hey, you want to be a math teacher? I'm an athletic director down in Santa Maria at a school called Pioneer Valley. We're always looking for math teachers. We're always looking for just good people. If you want to come down, let us know or let me know and I can help you out. And I was like, all right, but I was still like at home and I already had all this stuff. So I was still subbing, still became a coach or coaching the JV team, assistant on varsity. We had another great year on varsity. My JV team was okay. It was fun though with those kids, just different types of kids and that I hadn't coached before. So it was fun. And then after that year, I'm like, this is what I want to do. So I ended up, I don't know if I called him or I sent him a Facebook message. Greg Lanthier, send him a Facebook message. Hey, like I'm ready to jump like shit. Like I want to get out of Valley. Like I was living at home. It was time for me to be like, hey man, I need to get out on my own. So I make that call and he's like, all right, this is what I need you to do. So I need you to fill out these papers for this job, do this and that. And it was like all within a couple weeks because it was summertime. And it was like, you have to do this now. Like I waited a little too long, but it was like, don't worry about it. Do this stuff and we'll make it work. I'm like, all right. So I'm driving from Visalia to Santa Maria. I did that a couple times. My dad had a trailer on my uncle's property, sleeping in my dad's trailer at the coast, interviewing for a job, which was like a level 2 instructional assistant. And so on campus, I don't get that job, but they're like, it's going to take you a couple times, but you can still come over here. You can sub. Lanthier, he's like, hey man, I can help you out. If you want to be over here, I can help you out. You can be a coach of this, do that. And I'm like, all right. But the problem was I didn't have anywhere to live. And so then I'm talking to my mom.
The coast is not the valley.
No, it's not. No, it's not. I ended up talking with my grandpa. My grandpa, he lives in Arroyo Grande. And he has this upstairs unit, like he's got his downstairs, he's got like his little man cave. And I'm crashing there for a few nights. And then I think like my aunt or my mom's, I think it was my aunt, they're just like, look, you have all this stuff, just make it look really nice. Because if you know my grandpa, he's organized, if you're gonna be with him, like this is what you need to be doing. Like you can't be messy, you can't do this. And so I'm like, all right. So I just took my stuff and I just made it look really nice everywhere in there. I go, Grandpa, I'm going to be with you for a month and a half. And he looks around. He's better not ever get messy in here. And so I'm like, all right, I won't let that happen. My grandpa's like, if you know my grandpa coach, it's just how he is. That's his personality. And so I'm crashing on his like sofa futon and I'm studying for my CSETs because I'm becoming a math teacher. And so my college GPA it was like 0.1 away from being like, hey, you can go right into the program and do this, but I had to take a bunch of tests. Do you know anything about the CSETs for math?
Of course I do.
Oh, man. Those tests, those are the hardest tests ever.
That's why I did not take that one. I had to have the English one, the history one, and the business one.
Yeah, they were ridiculous. And so I'm studying for my CSETs. I'm a substitute teacher. I'm coaching. I'm helping out with their cross country team. And then all the while too, like during fall and stuff, like I'm helping out at open gym. Like I'm going to be the freshman basketball coach. So I'm freshman basketball coach, cross country. As the year goes on, then it's hey because I get that level 2 instructional assistant job. I get that, and then but again, coast is not the valley. So I'm like, I have to do this stuff. So then I'm coaching tennis in the spring. I'm helping out with tennis. So it was like my days, it was 6 days a week, like hours and hours on end. And then perfect timing too, with my grandpa, a month and a half later, my aunt, because my family's all from the coast over here. My aunt in her house in Apomo, one of my cousins is leaving to Santa Barbara to go to school. So there's a room that opens up. So that room opens up. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go live in my aunt's house now. And it's me and my cousin. My aunt didn't live there, but so it's me and one of my cousins, and we're living there. And so like the timing of everything to be over here, it was perfect. It was really weird how that worked. And so then, I'm going through that school year, and then I end up passing my CSETs. I had to take one of the CSETs 4 times, and it's $100 each test. So after the 3rd time, I think I broke down. I was like, I don't know if I'm ever gonna pass this. Because it was that hard. And I was like, this is like my livelihood too. If I don't pass these tests that I'm studying like 3 hours a day for, then I can't get a job. Like I'm not going to make it over here. But I ended up passing all of them, I think like that spring. And so then I go through Brandman to get my teaching credential. I interview because, like I said, I'm trying to become a math teacher. All the people on campus, they knew me like, oh yeah, this guy's gonna be a math teacher. I interviewed for the math job. I end up getting the math job, the math teaching job. And then I am on an internship credential, right? So that's my first year there, that spring. And then late spring, almost before school's out, athletic director, because he was a varsity coach. So I was also an assistant on varsity. But he comes to me and was like, hey, I got some things going on. I'm gonna leave the school. And that kind of shook me because I was like, man, like my early in my coaching career, like I'm like, I know basketball, but there's just so much other stuff that I didn't know. And I'm like, I wanted to learn. I'm like, who can I learn from? I know this guy. I've known him. He was my assistant coach when I was playing. Like, he's a varsity coach. Like, so I was at his practice every day. Like, I saw what he was doing. I wanted to learn more and learn like why, like what is he doing? Why is he doing it? How do you work with these kids? And then he's like, no, I'm gonna leave. So you're gonna be the varsity coach. And so I'm just like, I'm gonna be the coach now. I'm going from freshman to varsity, and all the while too, I am becoming a math teacher. So then that summer, it's okay, you need to teach a summer school class, you need to coach varsity basketball, and then you're going to go 5 weekends in a row, you're on a road trip because summer basketball, right? Like you're gone every weekend. And you're taking your classes too. So I was busy. It was like there was times where I didn't drink coffee yet, but I was drinking tea. I was like getting my way to coffee. And tea, I was drinking caffeinated tea for at 10 o'clock at night, staying up till 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock in the morning, writing papers on road trips. And so that was that summer. And then going to the next year, I'm teaching math class and then I'm varsity coach. We had done the prior year, so we're in like a tougher league. And the tougher league and all the games, we just were not, it was just not happening for us. And me, I'm kind of, what am I doing as a varsity coach? I was like holding my head above water. What am I doing? There's so much that I didn't know that you had to do, and it made it really tough. I learned. I was young because that was 2018, so I was 27. I'm not like super young, but fresh out of playing, my coaching style was like not. It was like I knew what I had gone through, right? Like in terms of practicing and drills and interacting with the kids, it was like really hard to separate to myself from I'm not a player anymore. Like I'm a coach. Like there's a difference. And
So we're gonna come back to that. Keep going to the end of the story here to where we're at now.
okay, yeah. And so then we're tough year, but so I brought my freshmen that were with me, my freshman year, I brought them up to varsity with me because I was like, look, I gotta have these same kids because they know me, they already trust me. The other kids, they're like, who is this guy? Like he comes in a year and now he's gonna coach us. Like it was really hard. We go to the next year. So then I'm the coach for the next 3 years. Second year was still really tough. It was just building. Looking back on it, was like I don't think those guys, like the kids that had already been there that I hadn't coached, they didn't trust me really. They were just like, this is a guy who's coming in, he's fired up all the time, he yells a lot, he's a young coach, what is he doing? But my freshmen, they're like, we know him, we know what he says works, we're gonna listen to him. So there was like two sides of the team. And we ended up that year, and it's really hard, or thinking about it too, like that year, it's really hard as a coach when you're trying to do these things and you're not winning games. It's not all about winning and losing, but the kids don't go out to play to be like, oh, we lost. Though, like, it's okay. It doesn't mean anything. And so when you're coaching and you're losing, it's really hard to like believe in that guy and be like, hey, he knows what he's doing. This is working. But my second year as varsity, there was like a switch. Something happened. I don't know what it was. I think I changed the starting lineup. I was like, I'm going to start off my sophomores and juniors. My seniors and those guys, like they weren't listening, and it was like, hey, like I need you to do like a drop step in this, and the guy would go to dunk the ball. And I'm like, hey man, like that's not what I just asked you to do. Like in a game, like you're not going to get that. You're going to get this. Do this. And it was like, all right, well, if you're not going to listen, I'm going to put my sophomores in and juniors in. And so then that's changed. I think I flipped a switch in everybody, and we made a run at the end. Like we played one team, first round of league, get beat by 25. And then the second time you go to their place and we actually end up winning. We beat them. They're number one team in our league, win by 4. The score was 32-28, a barn burner. But we won. So it was like, it worked. And then all of a sudden these kids, they start buying in, they're listening. I can tell there's a shift in practice. And we ended up going on a little run and we make playoffs, where before it was like, man, we're not doing anything. We lose first round of playoffs, but that didn't matter. It was like the journey there was a lot of fun because you end your season on such a high note like that. It was great. Next year, that's COVID year. So that was a whole, it was like,
We'll come back to that.
yeah. But that was fun. It was COVID year. We go through there. I have my yeah, my juniors that I had caught and taught or coached since they were freshmen, they're now seniors. They know me. We're in a rhythm now because it's like, hey, these guys are all with it. They're great kids. It was fun. We ended up having a winning record for the first time with those kids. And then the next year just became even better. Being with those kids, we started the season off rough, but that I did that on purpose because I knew our league wasn't very good. So we're like 1-7 to start. But those kids, they worked so hard and they had such a mentality about them. It's gonna show. The work is gonna show eventually. And they were a great team. They were very bonded. Those kids had grown up together. They played together, and then everything we went through. Then we ended up going undefeated in league that year. And then so that was my last year there at Pioneer Valley. And then I made the switch over to Mission. And I think one of the reasons why I made this switch was like I noticed my first year when I first became a varsity coach and Lane 3 had told me like, hey, you're going to be the guy. I was like, I still have so much to learn. And so I never was able to like just be an assistant or be around coaches that like knew way more than me. Like my first couple years coaching, it was like I was a head coach and I helped out a little on varsity, but it wasn't anything to where, hey, I'm getting like mentored or anything like that. But I knew that there was still so much to learn. And I was like, I think I've gotten all I could get out of Pioneer Valley in terms of learning and like doing what I needed to be like to become a better coach. And that's where I was like, I think I need to make this jump to Mission. And I knew Mission. I'd known Terrence through coaching against him. We had battles. They were fun. I knew the athletic director at Mission, Kevin Hitchen. We were friends. Met him through playing in men's leagues. And then I was helping out with three ball. So there was Mike Wozniak. And so I knew like this community of people like I needed to get with because I had so much to learn. And it wasn't even about basketball. It was more like, I know these are good people. I know that they have more to offer than basketball. I need to learn from them. I need to be around these people so that way I can get, how do I build the relationship with kids? How do I do all these things that, not that I like neglected when I was at Pioneer Valley, but just I didn't know anything about. I didn't have anyone show me like, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is how you do it. This is how you get the kids to buy into this, or this is how you get them to trust you, other than just seeing them on the court and basketball, because they have to see. So that lesson or those things I need to learn, I knew I could get from Mission. And
So you're there, right? And now you're back in the role of an assistant. You're year 3, right?
yeah, this is my third year under assistant under Terrence and being at Mission.
Okay, so I want to go back to when you got promoted from being the freshman coach to the varsity coach.
Okay.
What I'm always curious about is what did you realize right away that you needed to figure out? And I'm sure the list is long because you're 2 years, 3 years into being a lower level and assistant coach versus this long preparation runway, and then you're in that seat.
Yeah.
But what are the things that jumped off the page where you put those in the vault for the next time, right? This is what I had to figure out, even though I had a decent background, I had a good playing career, I had done things at a high level, but this is different.
It was just how to operate a team, how to run it. Like, how do I, like, the amount of paperwork that I had no idea, because, as a freshman, I was just doing the varsity coach took care of everything. But now it was like the paperwork, like the meetings you had to have, like the fundraising, meetings you had to have to spend the money. I was like, hey, we got to get together. I want to get you guys this stuff. Yeah, you got to have a meeting. You got to have the kids have to sign off. It's their money. I'm like, I didn't know that. Like the organization of road trips, like the hotels, how do you pay for hotels, and then the vans. Hey, you're gonna gas up the vans. You better keep all those receipts because if you don't, like that money's coming out of your pocket first, and then you're gonna get reimbursed. All right, no. So it was like I think because that first summer, Lanthier, he was still there, so he was on the road trips. I think I had 2 or 3 pages like back to back, so 6 pages of notes of he would just rattle things off to me. I'm like writing stuff down, and then it's obviously like you can get told like, hey, this is what you need to do, but then once you start running it, you're like, oh man. So that stuff, and then that was like the hardest, was just it was the administration work. It
For
was
sure. And that's
so
the common theme, right? It's, hey, I'm here to coach basketball. And it's, yeah, you don't get to do that anymore. You get to administrate your team and run a program.
yeah, and so then I think too that's where I learned that some of the assistant coaches and coaches, they were on the campus, and that's where I think that like delegating certain things to people when making, because obviously they're going to have their own team to coach, but you still want your coaches to feel part of the whole program, like because obviously everybody was at the varsity team, but it's all three levels, it's everybody together, and that's where it's, hey, if you can, I learned that, you know, if you can get your JV coach involved with this and that with the varsity team, your freshman coach involved, so that way all three levels are seeing all the coaches, then it becomes more of a cohesive unit.
No doubt. Also, really quickly, you mentioned that as you're scrapping for getting your credential, you're coaching cross country, you're coaching hoops, you're coaching tennis. I did the triple for probably 7 years. I was the cross country coach, the basketball coach, the golf coach. And the point I want to make is people that are listening and trying to get into this, sometimes you're putting things together with duct tape until you get settled. And in your case, you get an on campus teaching job, which opens up a whole different avenue of points of contact, of network, of stability.
Yeah.
So don't let that stuff deter you. It is possible. You're juggling a lot of balls, but sometimes that's what has to be done. I want to know now, as you have gone to mission prep and the people you just rattled off, so Terrence, Waz, you, none of you were on campus. How is that different? And what have you learned about running program from the lens of an off-campus coach from Terrence, right? And in regards to things that you would take back with you the next time you were running a program.
I think it's just the relationships that you can build with the kids. So Waz he has a program called Three Ball, his AAU team. And so some of the kids that mission that they play basketball through that program. And so I was helping out through there. So that's one way to, obviously as an assistant, not a head coach, but as an assistant, I'm able to go help out. I can see these kids, I can interact with them, I can talk to them. They're playing basketball, you're coaching. So it's like you're coaching them there. They get to know you, they see you, they can build a relationship. You start talking about school, you give them bits of advice, and that's one way. And then being off campus now with the team, it's like you only see those kids when you're like at school or go to practice. Last year, being my second year, I had some of the kids, I would go to practice and they would always be working in. So then what I had done is I had asked them, hey, do you guys want to do like a weight program in the morning before school and work out, so that way we can get some weights in? And I had a couple kids, I had four kids that were like, yeah, let's do it. And so that's how I built the relationship with them, through the weight program, because it was like, hey, I want you guys to be strong for the season. I want you to be successful. Let's lift weights together. And then once I got that relationship with those kids, I could text them and say, hey man, like what's going on? Like how's day going? Or I see him, and you start asking him things that aren't about basketball. And it takes a little while because, like I said, just this big guy coming in off campus. Who is this guy? And he's telling me what to do. It takes a while. Like they have to trust you, and to build that trust, you start with a small group of them, and then it kind of filters on. And then once they see, hey, this guy, he knows what he's talking about. It's working. Like, all right. And then it's asking them, hey, it's little stuff like even about like football. Hey, did you guys watch these college football games the last week? Oh yeah, and you see that guy, and yada yada. It's like talking about those little things and getting away from basketball and trying to get those relationships built, so that way by the time that you are with them every day, that they're tuned into what you're saying.
What have you learned from Terrence over these 3 years, or from Waz, or just being around mission prep in regards to things that you would add were you to go back and take over your own program, right? In regards to, hey, I did it this way for 4 years. We had some success. We won a league title. But now that I'm getting a look behind this curtain, right? Other than just having players over there, what do they do that's really good that you're like, wow, this is
Wow.
great. I would love to implement this. That's part one. And part two is, what have you brought with you from your own experience that you've been able to add value to what they have going on there?
So one of the things I got from Terrence was treating the individuals on the team as their own person. One of the things that I got, and I was texting him about this, I want to make sure I get this right, because he showed this. So Terrence, if you know anything about Terrence, he's in school to get his doctorate, and he's a gold mine. Yeah, this guy's a gold mine. I love talking to him. I love asking him questions. So one of the things that he had shown me from his classes was about the individuals on a team and how you have to allow them to be themselves, right? And allow them to be themselves and to be authentic. And that belonging to a team doesn't mean that you've assimilated into just like what is supposed to be like a box, right? It's not cookie cutter. That the individuals get to be themselves and that the true selves, they're accepted in the team. And that's something that I've really it's hit home with me because when I first started out, it was like coming from college and playing pro, it was like, hey man, this is serious. This is a serious thing. We need to take this serious. You have to have a serious look on your face. There's no having fun during the drill. Don't have fun. Having fun is being good. And it's no, you have to let these kids, they're kids. And that's one of the things I had to learn. These are high school kids. Most of them are not going to play college basketball. So you have to give them the good experience. What are they getting besides the basketball? What are they getting from the experience? And so allowing them to be themselves, like they can be with their friends, like they're in the drills, they're doing themselves. And it's like you allow them to be them, then they feel a part of the team. And now you can build on that team because everybody there is themselves. And so that's one thing I've learned from Terrence. That's huge for me. And so that's what I would take with me for sure, like to the next whenever I run a program is that. And
what about from Waz, right? You work for him with three ball. He runs a different type of program, and then he's also there at Mission. What have you been able to take away from him? And for those that are listening, you can go check out both of those episodes in the vault.
Yeah. From Waz, I learned, it was mainly because it's just like I was going to practice, going on road trips with him, but it's just seeing the kids. It was mainly like how practice was put up. Because, if you go to one of his three ball practices, you can get 30 kids there, 40 kids. So it was like, how did he break things up? How do you keep the attention of kids? Because one of the things that I think all coaches don't like is when kids are standing in line, they're not paying attention, right? Because then they get up to the drill and it's like, hey, what are you doing? But it's keeping them focused throughout the whole practice. So how do you keep a big group of kids focused throughout an hour and a half? And the way that he runs his practices and the constant movement, the games, the short-sighted games that he played, I got a good feel of that and how everything that he would do was like almost everything was competitive. There's a little bit that wasn't competitive, but then it was like, all right, we're playing four. And what he focused on too, like during those competitions, when the kids that were out of bounds and they weren't in the drill, oh, your team just got to stop, but you didn't cheer, minus a point. Like, why aren't you cheering for your teammates? Are you guys not engaged in practice? And so it was like, and then all of a sudden you mentioned those little things, and now the kids that are outside that aren't paying attention in the drill, that are out of it, now they're paying attention. They're cheering when their teammates get to stop. Little things like made a good pass to a layup. Did you point at him? Did you point at that guy because he just gave you a dime and you didn't say anything? You didn't acknowledge your teammate. Make sure you acknowledge that. Like those little things I had seen is almost a part of every three ball practice. And that's what I took up. Look how he's getting the engagement from the kids and keeping them focused and keeping the focus off. It wasn't, if a kid had made a mistake, it was like, hey, don't worry about your mistake. Don't focus on yourself. Focus on the team. You're out now, cheer on your team that's going on because you're winning, right? It's not about what you just did. Your team is still in the lead. You can still have an impact through not even being in the drill.
So what would you say then that you brought with you that you've been able to see influence within the program that's pretty well established, pretty successful, I think Terrence and Darnell combined are the only two coaches in like the last 25 years or something crazy like that, right? So it's like this thing's been humming along. What have you been able to add from a value standpoint?
I think the on-court teaching has been something that I've really been able to help out. So one of the things that when I first got there, we had a senior named JJ Howard. And JJ was phenomenal. This kid, he's at University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley now, playing D1 basketball. But this kid he is freaking athletic. He could jump. He could shoot a little bit. He was like, you play any team, he's going to be one of the best guys on the court. And so the X's and O's part I brought over with me because before I got there, I was able to get access to Huddle. And so I watched almost all their games. And then I had seen something. I was like, hey, I went to Terrence. I go, hey, I see this thing. You guys love the movement. If you watch Mission Prep basketball, it's like about passing the ball, moving, screening, cutting. But then when we got to with JJ, it was like, hey, we're moving too much. Like, we're getting in this guy's way. Like, he's the best player on the court. We got to have good spacing. And so I helped out with that. And then once the kids, and it was really difficult for the kids because they were so used to moving and cutting. And it was like, hey, sometimes you have to wait to cut. Sometimes you have to wait. So it was like the drills that I brought and the teaching on court and the spacing that I brought to that, the kids, they flourished in it. And then you had Terrence of his gold mine of keeping the kids together as a team and all the off-court stuff that we had done, the meetings and stuff like that. These kids, they just, yeah, they flourished. And we ended up that year with JJ, we made it to the semifinals of the Southern Regional of state. And it was just bringing that on-court stuff helped out the most.
What would you say you learned and you have been able to utilize from your time coaching tennis and cross country into your approach to basketball?
That's a good question. I think with the tennis and cross country, it was just just having fun with what we were doing. Like the kids, it wasn't with cross country. I mean, you're running. And so it was a chance to be there. Like I used to ride my bike with the kids. And so it was a ride my bike kids. It's giving them a chance to encourage them in a way that, like how do you make someone, you can't just yell at them and be like, hey, run faster. Like that doesn't work. It's, hey, you can do this. Like you don't give up. Like try to catch your team, like catch your teammate up there. And like cross country, it me down as a person because, especially when you go to a cross country meet, like you're only at one part of the race. So they're off on their own. Mm-hmm. And so it's basically helping them with the mental part of it. How do you teach this kid that's running a 3 mile or a 5K race to stick with it the whole way and then at the end give it their best? And it's telling them just hang on to the end and then get there. And then when you get to that end, really put all you can into it, give your best effort. And then with tennis, it was just, again, it was you're just having fun with what you're doing. These are sports. They're supposed to be fun. You're supposed to be out there and enjoying it. Enjoy it with your teammates. And obviously you want to be getting better at your sport, but it was you have a chance to interact with these kids who maybe you don't see them on campus. Who are these other kids on campus? Get to know them while you're out here and talk to them and then play your sport, have fun, and do what you need to do. That's what my learning from that was just, these are sports. These are things, these are games.
So how do you ensure that you bring that into your basketball coaching?
It's give them a chance to play the game. A lot of times when I was younger, it was just always about the drill. And then it was like, oh, you messed up the drill, like not something happened. But it was like, no, like that doesn't need to be the way it is, or that it shouldn't be that way. It should be, here it is, let's compete. And now within that, if you allow the players to be themselves, like their personalities are going to come out in the game. And so you allow that to happen. If a kid gets a little like tough or he makes the and one layup, like you don't need to get on him for screaming and one or do anything. It's, hey, that's his personality. Like let that come out. Let their personalities come out in the competition of the game and allow that to be their outlet. Because that's what sports are. It's an outlet for kids, and a lot of kids need that. They need the outlet.
So what would you say in either your program or what you're participating in at Mission Prep and learning there is the best thing you do in regards to creating the largest ripple effect on your culture? Meaning that if you left, you would take this with you to make sure that you're having that impact. And ideally, it's something tangible that was part of what you guys do every day. And culture is such a buzzword and so innocuous. It's what's something specific you can offer the listenership in regards to, hey, look, I've figured out when I was at Pioneer Valley that if you do X, it gets this type of return on investment. Or I watch this happen now that I'm at Mission Prep, and that's something I'm definitely taking with me when I leave.
I think it's the showing up 15, 20 minutes early and getting your warm-up in. We have a warm-up that we follow that doesn't change at all, ever. Just to get your body warmed up, give you a chance to get your muscles warmed up, everything, just get ready for practice. And so that's my thing, is always practice might start at 6, but please get there 5:45. So that way you can warm up and do this specific warm-up, and you can do it so that way you with your teammates, so then you can talk to your teammates, but that's like the first thing you do when you come into the gym. And that mentality, and I'm trying to put this to the kids right now, is if you show up 15 minutes early, think about 15 minutes more practice every day. If you get 15 minutes of practice every day, 6 times a week, that's an hour and a half. So you're getting extra time just by doing things 15 minutes earlier. And then one of the things I always try to do too is from practice, how is that going to apply to your life? I'm telling you to show up 15 minutes early in your life. Basketball's not going to be forever. You're going to have a job. You're going to have meetings. Do you show up to your meetings right at this time when it starts? Probably not. You're probably going to want to show up 15 minutes early so that way you can have your stuff done, prepared. You can have your notes, you can whatever you need done. So then by the time the meeting starts, you're locked in and ready to go. Same thing with school. Do you show up to your class right as the bell rings? Teacher probably going to mark you late, right? I know I do. If my kids come into my classroom, they're not sitting down. It's late. You're late. And so it's just providing that 15 minutes. Yeah, it goes to basketball, but also like translates to the rest of your life and something that you could have this habit forever.
What's in the warm-up?
Warm up is something that I follow since playing pro basketball in Mexico. It's my first year. It's leg swings, a bunch of different types of dynamic warm up activities to get all parts of the body active and ready. And then usually, if you do it correct, it actually only takes 10 minutes, and then you have a sweat going before. And so then it takes 10 minutes, then you have the extra 5 minutes, go get water, do what you need to do. But yeah, it's a bunch of different dynamic warm up activities.
Got it. And that's stuff they can do on the sideline if the other team's in there still. It doesn't get in the way. There's an opportunity for them to get loose and get going.
Yeah, exactly. So it's just time. And I think that's the time too where they're able to, hey, get a partner, hey, let's warm up. And now they can talk to that other teammate and see how to check in with them during the day or throughout the day. Hey, how was your day? What are you feeling like? Are you ready for practice today? So it gives them an opportunity to lead their own activity. I think that's also something that's very important is having players lead their own. That's something where it's like it's written on the whiteboard or they have it on their phone. They can look at it. Okay, do it. And it's on them. Because I think player-led teams, that's going back to probably another question that you said from Terrence, and what have I gotten from Terrence that I could apply is more player-led activities. It's not my team. Yeah, I might be a coach. I could be the head coach, could be assistant coach. It's not my team. This is your guys' team. This is your experience. What are you going to do with it? And so allowing the players to have more of a say in what should be done and what they think, taking in their opinions, because you get the player led, then it's, hey, I chose this. This is my thing. And they have more ownership of the team.
For sure. All right, last question. You are a new father. You have a 3-month-old. What have you most recently changed your mind on? I used to be dug in over here, and now I'm over here, and here's why. It may be related to being a parent, it may not, but it's a life change, and maybe that got you thinking about some things and challenging some of your belief system. But I'm always curious what people are doing to grow their mindset.
I think the biggest thing, and it's funny you asked that because I've actually thought about this a lot, but it's just you have my baby boy, like he's like my world now. I want to make sure that he's got the best. I want to make sure I put him first. And it's given me a different perspective on parents and what they think about their kids. Because before it was like I go through practice, whatever happens, I'm talking to the kids and it's, hey, my kid's not doing this. And I used to think this parent, they just care about their kid. And obviously that's it. Like they're not worried about the team. But of course, a parent's only going to think about their kid because they want the best for them. What is going on? My kid is doing this, or my kid's practicing really hard, but he's not playing. Like, why? And then it's gotten me to think a lot about how parents they need to be listened to about what they say. Before, I wouldn't say I wouldn't blow a parent off, but being young and not having kids, it's like, why are you bugging me about this? Why are you talking to me about this when he could easily fix it? But it's because they care about their kid. They want their kid to have the best. They want what's best. And so that's really changed, is seeing now that perspective of when my baby boy grows up. I want to make sure that my kid's coach is doing everything for him. I want to make sure that he cares about each individual, cares about my kid as much as he cares about this other one. And that's something that I've gotten to see now from a parent is they care about their kids so much that they want to make sure that what they're doing, that what the coaches are doing, what they're saying is beneficial to them. And that's important.
No, for sure. And it's a good reminder as I go into some of my meetings coming up with parents that be receptive, listen, Don't jump to conclusions. Everyone's just trying to do best by the kids, and that's what we're all here for in this space. So appreciate you coming on today. Looking forward to seeing you guys this year. If Terrence ever figures out how to take a couple of days off and come up here to the peninsula.
Yeah, definitely. All right, man.